Welcome to the world of science fiction Neon's Alien. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a new story from Neon's Alien universe. The desert on Planet Zero's was endless. Red sand stretched in every direction. The wind howled like a beast, throwing dust into the sky. It was the kind of place that swallowed people. Forever. Cal Morgan, a human drifter and mechanic, drove his old sand cruiser across the dunes. The engine rattled, the glass was scratched, and the heat made the metal glow. But Cal didn't stop. He had work to do, scavenging parts from broken satellites scattered across the desert. Then he saw something. Strange, footprints, tiny ones. They appeared suddenly across the dunes, leading into the storm. Cal slowed down. He looked around. No ship, no caravan, no creature big enough to carry a kid. He turned the cruiser and followed the trail. The storm got worse. Sand whipped against the windows. The sky turned orange and gray. But the tracks continued. And then through the dust he saw it, a small figure kneeling beside a broken solar panel. Arms wrapped around thin legs, clothes torn, skin covered in dust. A child. Alone. Cal hit the brakes and jumped out. The wind nearly pushed him back, but he fought through it. "Hey!" he shouted. The child didn't answer. He got closer and knelt beside him. It wasn't a human boy. The child had soft gray skin, blue markings on his arms, and glowing yellow eyes. His ears were long and pointed, and his hair was thin and white. An alien child. He was barely breathing. Cal pulled out his water pack and held it to the child's lips. The boy sipped once, then twice. He opened his eyes wider but didn't speak. "You're lucky I came this way," Cal muttered. He picked up the boy. He was light as a feather, and carried him to the cruiser. Inside, the boy curled up on the seat, clutching a small piece of metal. It looked like part of a necklace. Cal started the engine and turned back toward his shelter, an old fuel station buried under rock, far from the city. By nightfall, the storm had passed. Inside the shelter, Cal placed the boy on a cot and wrapped him in a thermal blanket. He checked for injuries, just bruises and sunburn. Nothing broken. The boy slept quietly. Cal sat at his desk staring at the necklace. It had strange symbols, alien language, and one word that the boy had whispered in the cruiser. Maka. He didn't know what it meant. Maybe a name. Maybe a place? The boy woke suddenly, breathing fast. Cal moved slowly toward him. "Easy, kid, you're safe." The boy looked at him with wide eyes. "Maka?" Cal shook his head. "I don't know who that is. I found you in the sand." The boy's eyes filled with tears. He covered his face and began to cry. Soft, frightened sobs. Cal sat beside him. "You got a name?" The boy hesitated, then whispered, "Kale." "All right, Kale, I'm Cal." He offered the necklace back. Kale grabbed it quickly and hugged it close to his chest. "Is Maka your mother?" Cal asked. Kale nodded slowly. Cal leaned back, rubbing his face. "So where is she?" Kale didn't answer. He just stared at the wall. That night, Cal checked the satellite scanner. He expected silence. Instead, he saw something that made his heart skip. 3 unidentified ships flying low across the desert, same direction he had come from. No signals, no transponders, no names. But they were searching, and they were getting close. Cal looked back at Kale, who was now fast asleep. He whispered to himself, "What have I walked into?" Far away on a cold ship above the desert, an alien figure stood in front of a glowing map. She wore dark armor, her face hidden by a silver mask. Her voice was sharp and cold. "Track the signal. Find the child. Eliminate the witness." Another alien bowed. "Yes, Commander Drax." Back at the shelter, Kale opened his eyes slowly. He sat up and looked at the stars outside the window. In his small hands, the necklace pulsed with faint blue light. He whispered a word in a language no human had ever heard. And in his heart, he knew she was coming. Morning came slow and quiet. The desert outside Cal's shelter was calm again, but inside the air felt heavy, like a storm was still waiting. Cal walked to the cot where Cale slept. The boy had stopped shivering, but he looked fragile. His arms were thin, and strange symbols, faint and glowing, ran down his skin like living tattoos. Cal reached for his old med scanner. It was built for humans, but it could pick up basic alien vitals too. He hovered it over Cale's chest. The scanner beeped once, then showed something unusual. Unknown bloodline. Hybrid. High. Energy field present. Danger level. High. What the hell? Cal whispered. He tapped deeper into the scanner's records. Then he saw a name. A name buried in red warning symbols. Subject match. Cal froze. He stared at the screen, his hands suddenly cold. Vaelna, a name from war, from death, from stories. No one dared to tell. Years ago, during the Great Galactic Conflict, one name made even soldiers tremble. Vaelna, an alien queen turned war commander, known for leading a rebellion against the Galactic Council. Her army didn't just fight, they erased cities. She was hunted, feared, and finally, believed dead. Cal had never seen her in person, but he'd once flown near a battlefield she left behind. Nothing had survived. Now he looked at Cale, small and sleeping, and whispered, "You're her son?" He didn't want to believe it, but the DNA code on the screen was clear. And then Cale opened his eyes. "Where's your mother, kid?" Cal asked gently. Cale stared at him. His eyes glowed a soft yellow. He held the necklace close. "She told me to run," he said quietly. "To hide." "Who's chasing you?" Kyle didn't speak for a moment. Then he whispered one word. "Drax." Cal felt his stomach twist. He knew that name too. Commander Drax. The one who led the Council's purge. The one who said, "If you see her child, kill him before he becomes her." Cal stood up, pacing the room. This is bad. This is really bad. He checked his satellite feed again. The 3 unknown ships had landed. Not far. They were scanning the area, closing in, and the Council would not stop until they had Cale. Back. Inside, Cale walked over to Cal's desk. He looked at a broken drone and touched it softly. The drone blinked, then powered on. Its circuits glowed for a second before shutting back down. Cal stared. "You did that?" Kyle nodded. "I don't know how. It just listens to me." "You control machines?" Cale shook his head. "No, they just feel me." Cal rubbed his jaw. "That's not normal." He looked at the boy again. Not just an alien, not just a runaway. Something more. Suddenly, the shelter lights flickered. Kyle's necklace pulsed bright blue. He turned to Cal. "They're close." "How do you know?" Cale pointed to the wall. The metal was vibrating. Cal grabbed his bag and a plasma pistol. "All right, time to move." He lifted Cale gently into a small travel pod, hidden under the floor. It had air, heat, and protection. "We're heading to the caves," Cal said. "No signals get through there." Cale looked at him. "You're not afraid?" Cal chuckled once bitterly. "I'm terrified, kid, but I don't leave people behind." Far above, in a hovering black command ship, Commander Drax watched. The desert below through his visor. His voice was cold as ice. "She hid her child well, but not well enough." His soldiers stood ready. Their weapons glowed. Drax smiled. "Find him. Kill the human. Bring the boy to me." Back on the ground, Cal and Cale rode into the red sand, the cruiser's engine howling through the wind. The scanner flashed red. One word blinked across the screen. Target locked. Cal gripped the controls tighter. "They're coming, kid." Cale said nothing, but his eyes began to glow brighter. And somewhere inside him, something ancient began to wake. Cal drove the cruiser hard across the red dunes, the engine screaming as sand clouds rose behind him. Cale sat in the passenger seat, holding his glowing necklace tightly, his eyes locked on the sky. Above them, 3 dark dots moved fast, scout ships from the Galactic Cleanser Unit. Silent, deadly and always watching. We're not going to outrun them, Cal said. So we'll have to outsmart them. Kyle didn't answer. His small hands shook slightly. He looked at Cal and whispered, "They put a price on me." Cal glanced at him. "How do you know that?" Kyle's voice was quiet, almost afraid. "I can hear it." In a distant corner of the galaxy, across 100 dark channels, a message was playing. Wanted. Subject. Hybrid child of Vaelna. Reward. 2 million credits. Dead or alive. Coordinates attached. Bounty hunters listened, smugglers whispered, and mercenaries locked onto the desert. Kale wasn't just being hunted by Drax now. He was being hunted by everyone. Back on Zeros, Cal steered the cruiser toward the jagged cliffs at the edge of the map. "The crystal caves are just beyond there," he said. "They block signals. We'll be safe." Kale nodded but said nothing. Then the sky above flashed. A missile struck the dune behind them. Boom! Sand exploded everywhere. The cruiser jumped and rolled hard. Cal fought the wheel, barely keeping it. "Straight, they found us." Another ship descended, sleek, black, and fast. A bounty ship. From inside it, a voice barked, "Surrender the child, now!" Cal turned sharply and sped toward the cliffs. The ship fired again, this time ahead of them. A wall of fire blocked their path. Cal slammed the brakes. The cruiser skidded. To a stop. Sand settled. Silence. Then footsteps. A tall figure in brown armor stepped out of the smoke. Helmeted. Weapon drawn. "Don't make this hard," the bounty hunter said. "Just give me the kid." Cal raised his pistol slowly. "No deal." "I don't want you," the hunter replied. "Just him. Give him up and I walk away." Kyle stepped out from behind Cal. "No," he said. His voice shook, but he stood tall. "You're lying. You'd kill him too." The bounty hunter paused, then smiled under the helmet. "Smart boy." He raised his weapon. Kale's necklace glowed bright blue. And then, everything changed. The sand around Kale started to rise, floating in the air. His eyes burned gold. The bounty hunter hesitated. "What are you doing?" Kale lifted one hand. The hunter's weapon ripped apart, bolts flying, metal twisting. The cruiser's engine lit up on its own. Cal stared, speechless. "Kyle, what is this?" Kyle's voice echoed, layered with something deeper. "I don't know, but it's waking up." The hunter turned to run, but the ground cracked. Vines of glowing crystal burst from the sand, wrapping his legs and slamming him to the ground. Cal blinked. "You just crushed a bounty hunter." Kyle looked down at his hands. "I didn't mean to." They jumped back in the cruiser and sped off toward the cliffs. Kyle's power faded as quickly as it came. He leaned back, weak and breathing hard. Cal said nothing for a long time. Finally, he muttered, "You're more than just her son." Kale nodded. "I think I'm something they tried to create. But she saved me." Behind them, more ships landed. The hunt was no longer silent. Every bounty hunter, every merc, every soldier with a scanner would now come looking, not for war, not for truth, but for the child who wasn't supposed to exist. At the cave entrance, Cal stopped the cruiser and picked up Kale. "You all right?" Kale nodded slowly. "I'm scared." "So am I," Cal said. "But I've got you." He carried him into the cave. The walls glowed with soft blue light. The deeper they went, the quieter it became. No signals, no hunters, no noise, only silence and secrets. Far above, Drax stared at the bounty footage. He watched the sand rise, the weapon shatter, the power burst from Kale's hands. He turned to his guards. He's not just a target anymore. He's a threat. His eyes narrowed. "Bring the ships, bring the fleet, I want the child alive," and the human turned to dust. The inside of the cave was nothing like the desert above. Soft blue light flowed through the walls like rivers under glass. Strange crystals grew from the ceiling like icicles, tall, clear, and humming faintly. The air was warm and quiet, like the planet was whispering. Cal had never seen anything like it. Cale walked ahead of him slowly, his hand reaching toward the glowing stones. "Do you know this place?" Cal asked. Cale nodded. "I've never been here, but I feel like I have." Cal adjusted the power scanner on his wrist. "No signals in or out. We're safe, for now." They moved deeper into the cave, stepping around still pools of water that shimmered with light. Suddenly, one of the crystals lit up as Cale walked past. Cal stopped. "Did you see that?" Kyle turned and touched the crystal, and the world around them changed. A burst of light surrounded them, bright but not blinding. The cave vanished. Now they stood in a giant open space filled with stars. It was a memory projection. The crystal was showing them something. They saw a tall alien woman, her skin silver, her eyes burning gold. She held a baby in her arms. Her voice echoed across the stars. They lied. They wanted a weapon. I gave them a son. Cal watched the vision, frozen. Cale's voice trembled. "That's my mother." More visions played, warships firing on, innocent cities, council leaders standing beside Commander Drax, shaking hands, approving secret orders. Then Vielna again, speaking to the crystal. "I am Vielna. They call me killer, monster, traitor, but I only wanted peace. For him," she looked down at her child in the vision. "If you find this, may please protect him. He is more than blood. He is memory, fire, and truth." The light faded. The cave returned. Kyle dropped to his knees. "She didn't run from war," he whispered. "She ran from them, from what they wanted me to be." Cal put a hand on his shoulder. "She tried to save you from becoming a weapon." Kyle looked up, eyes glowing. "They killed her because she said no." Cal sat down beside him, his voice low. "That story, that queen we were told to fear, it was all a lie." Cale clenched his fist. "And now they're coming to finish it." Further in, they found a hidden chamber, round, quiet, and glowing. Cale stepped inside, and the room lit up with his presence. Symbols on the walls floated in the air, and a platform rose from the floor. "It's a data vault," Cal said. "Ancient." Cal walked up and placed his hand on the stone. A new projection appeared, this time showing genetic maps and blueprints, a secret plan. The council had taken Vielna's DNA, mixed it with powerful tech, and created Cale, not a weapon to destroy, a being meant to unite. Fire, thought, and connection, a living key. Cal stared at the data. "You weren't born to burn the galaxy," he said softly. "You were born to unlock it." Suddenly the cave shook. A deep rumble echoed through the stone. Cal checked his scanner. "Signal interference. Someone's forcing their way in." Cale backed away from the platform. "They followed us." "No," Cal said. "They guessed where you'd go." He pulled out his blaster and turned to Cale. "Listen, we don't run now. This cave is old, but it's still alive. We use it." Cale looked scared. "But I don't know how." "You don't have to," Cal said. "It already knows you." Outside the cave, Drax's soldiers marched toward the entrance. Ships hovered, drones scanned. They carried energy weapons and capture nets. Drax stood at the front, watching the crystals glow faintly from a distance. He smiled coldly. "This place holds the past, but we bring the future." He raised his arm. "Burn it down." Inside, Cale stood in the center of the platform as Cal connected the vault's energy to the cave walls. "Ready?" Cal asked. Cale nodded. He placed both hands on the crystal panel. The whole cave pulsed. Crystals turned gold. The ground shook harder, and then a wave of light exploded outward, a shield, a message, a warning. Above the cave, the enemy ships were hit by pure energy and shut down midair. Weapons failed. Drones crashed. Drax fell to one knee, stunned. Inside the cave, Cal smiled. "You did it, kid." Cale stood tall, his eyes glowing bright. "No," he said softly. "She did. I just listened." The cave was quiet again. The energy pulse had pushed back Drax's army, shutting down ships, burning out scanners, and stopping weapons mid-fire. For a moment, the world outside was silent. Inside, Cale stood in the crystal chamber, glowing, softly with golden light. His chest rose and fell slowly. He had never felt so strong, and yet so afraid. Cal sat on a stone step, catching his breath. "You bought us time, kid, not much, but enough." Kyle looked around. "I didn't even know what I was doing." Cal smiled. "Sometimes, the power knows what you need before you do." Suddenly a sound echoed in the tunnel. Footsteps. Soft. Familiar. Cal raised his blaster. A voice came from the shadows. "Easy there, old man, don't shoot a friend." A tall figure stepped into the light, worn leather coat, a crooked smile. Lars Bren, Cal's old war buddy, smuggler, scout, survivor. Cal blinked. "Lars, how the hell did you find me?" Lars raised his hands. "I've been tracking bounty signals, heard you were hiding gold in a cave." Kyle stepped behind Cal, cautious. "Relax, kid," Lars said. "I'm not here for credits. I'm here to help." Cal lowered his weapon slightly. "We don't have time for jokes. This boy's being hunted by half the galaxy." "I know," Lars said, walking forward. "And I know something you don't. The Council's not just after him because of who he is." He pointed to Cale. "They're after what he can do." Later, by the fire, Lars shared the truth. There were more, he said. Children like him, half created, part programmed, part born. Valna saved one. Maybe two. The others didn't survive. Kyle's face turned pale. "I'm not the only one?" "Maybe not," Lars replied. "But you're the only one strong enough to light the beacon." "What beacon?" Cal asked. "There's a message vault," Lars said. "Deep in the Badlands. It's locked with biocode. Only Vielna, or her heir, can open it. The Council's terrified of what's inside." "A truth bomb?" Cal said. Lars nodded. "One that could burn their lies to dust." Kyle looked down at his hands. "I don't want to fight. I just want peace." "Then we fight," Cal said, "so you don't have to." But Cale was still afraid. That night, Cal woke to the sound of metal hitting stone. He grabbed his weapon and rushed toward the vault. Cale was gone. So was Lars. He ran outside, into the darkness beyond the cave, and stopped cold. Lars stood near a landing beacon. Cale was beside him, hands bound in glowing cuffs. Lars pressed a button on his wrist. A ship descended quietly from the sky, Council insignia on the wings. Cal raised his weapon. "What did you do?" Lars didn't turn. "I made a deal." "You sold the kid?" "I saved you, Cal," Lars shouted. "They promised to erase your record, give you a new life. You'll never have to run again." Kyle looked at Cal, eyes wide with fear. "You said I was safe." Cal stepped forward, fury in his voice. "You betrayed him. You betrayed me." "You don't get it," Lars said. "He's not a boy, he's a fuse. When he burns, we all burn." Cal's finger tightened on the trigger, but before he could fire, Cale screamed, not in fear, in power. The cuffs shattered, the beacon exploded, the ship above cracked midair and fell like a stone. Cale's body rose off the ground, surrounded by a golden storm. Crystals beneath the earth lit up like fire. Lars stumbled back. "What are you?" Cale's voice echoed, layered with ancient tones. "I am not a weapon. I am what you feared would survive." A wave of energy knocked Lars off his feet. Cal ran to Cale, shielding him. "It's okay, kid. Breathe, just breathe." Cale's light dimmed slowly. His feet touched the ground again. His head dropped. He passed out in Cal's arms. Lars crawled away. Cal aimed at him, rage burning in his eyes. "You ever come near him again, I'll bury you myself." Lars nodded. broken, and ran into the desert. Back in the cave, Cal laid Cale down gently. The boy was still glowing faintly, like embers under skin. "You didn't lose control," Cal whispered. "You took it back." Cale opened his eyes slowly. "I didn't mean to hurt anyone." "You didn't," Cal said. "You stopped a ghost." Cale smiled weakly. "Then I guess I'm ready." "For what?" Cale looked toward the mouth of the cave where the stars waited, "To finish what my mother started." The desert shook, not from wind, not from machines, but from something older, something angry, something returning. Cal stood at the edge of the cave entrance, his eyes locked on the horizon. The early light of dawn painted the sky blood red. Beside him, Cal sat quietly on a stone, his glowing eyes focused, his small hands wrapped around the edge of his cloak. He looked calm, but Cal knew the boy was bracing for war. The air grew heavy. And then, they came. Drax's fleet descended like a storm. Black ships spread across the sky, dropping war pods and soldiers into the sand like metal raindrops. The ground cracked beneath their feet. The canyon roared with their engines. Cal turned to Cale. "Time to run." Kyle didn't move. "No." "What?" "No. More running," Cale said. "They've chased me enough. Let them come." Before Cal could argue, a shadow crossed the sun. A shape, fast and silent, cut through the sky like a falling blade. It wasn't a council ship. It was something else. A silver craft, covered in ancient alien markings, burning with gold flame. It twisted in the air and slammed into the ground between Cal and the soldiers. Sand exploded into the sky. Smoke. Fire. Silence. Everyone froze. Then a hiss. A slow step. A tall figure walked out of the wreck. Her armor was black and red, cracked with time. Her cloak dragged across the sand. Her hair white as snow. Her face scarred, but still fierce. Her eyes burned gold. Cal's voice caught in his throat. "No way." Kyle stood slowly, his voice shaking. Mother, Velna, the queen, the warrior, the woman the galaxy thought was dead. She had returned. Drax stepped forward from his ranks. His helmet slid open to reveal cold green skin and a sneer. "Velna," he said, "I burned 10 worlds chasing your bones." She didn't blink. "And I've crossed 10 to find my son." Drax raised his hand. "You're outnumbered. You're broken. Give him up, and I'll end this clean." Velna smiled coldly. "You still lie with the same rotten breath?" She raised. Her hand and the sand obeyed her. A wall of golden dust rose around her, swirling like a storm, glowing from within. Soldiers staggered back. Energy weapons failed. Radios went dead. Cal stared. "She's controlling the desert." "No," Cale whispered. "The desert remembers her." Drax charged. Velna met him head-on. 2 legends. 1 blade of fire, 1 blade of shadow. They clashed under a sky full of smoke and light. Cal pulled Cale behind a rock, shielding him from the blasts. "She's insane. She can't take him alone." Cale turned, calm. "She's not alone." Then Cale stepped out. The storm slowed. Every eye turned to him. The boy who wasn't supposed to exist. He walked through the battle, untouched, flames rising from his skin like whispers. He reached Velna's side. Drax raised his blade to strike. But Cale caught it with his bare hand. The blade cracked. Power flowed from Cale's arm like lightning. He looked into Drax's eyes and spoke, not with voice, but with force. "You stole peace from my mother. You hunted me like prey. Now feel what you created." Kyle raised his hands and released it. Not fire, not destruction. Truth. A wave of golden light burst from him. It flowed through every soldier, every ship, every scanner. And in an instant, they all saw the truth. Memories of Velna's betrayal, council lies, the night she ran with her baby, How she begged for peace and they answered with fire. Soldiers dropped their weapons. Drones shut down, even Drax stumbled back, dazed. "No," he whispered. "This can't be." Vaelna stepped forward and pressed a blade to his chest. "You were never afraid of me," she said. "You were afraid of the truth I carried." She turned to Kale. "And now he carries it." Drax was gone with one strike. The battle ended not with fire, but with silence, the kind that follows after a long, dark night. Cal sat by the cliff as the sun rose again. Vaelna stood nearby, watching Kale sleep peacefully under a star map blanket. She turned to Cal. "You protected him." "He protected all of us," Cal said. She nodded. "He is what I couldn't be." "You were exactly what he needed," Cal replied. "A mother who never gave up." The battle was over, but the world felt new. The desert, once filled with fire and fear, now shimmered under soft sunlight. Crystals sparkled from the rocks. The air was quiet. No engines, no screams, no death. Just peace. Cal sat on a ridge, looking down at the camp below. Soldiers who had once tried to kill Kale were now helping rebuild the shelter. Some offered water. Some helped move wreckage. None looked at Vaelna the same way anymore. They had all seen what Kale had shown them. The truth. And once truth enters the heart, lies can no longer rule it. Vaelna stood near the old landing site. Her armor was cracked, her cloak torn, but her eyes, still gold, still sharp. But something had changed in her. Not just power. Peace. Kale walked up to her, his small hand wrapping around hers. "I saw your memories," he said softly. "I know," she replied, brushing his hair back. "I gave them to the crystals. I hoped one day someone would listen." Kyle smiled. He did. Vaelna turned. Cal was walking toward them, dust on his boots, grease on his hands, same tired smile on his face. The Queen of War looked at the mechanic. "You're not what I expected," she said. Cal chuckled. "I get that a lot. You protected him when the galaxy would have killed him." "I didn't see a weapon," Cal said. "I saw a kid who needed a chance." Vaelna's voice softened. "That changed him. And me." She reached into her cloak and handed Cal a small crystal pendant. It glowed faintly with golden light. "This is his link to the archives of my people. If anything happens to me, guide him to it." Cal took it gently. "He doesn't need me anymore." "He always will," she replied. "Not as a soldier, as family." That night a new fire burned in the camp. Not for war, but for warmth. Humans, aliens, old soldiers, and even ex-enemies sat around it. Kale told stories, funny ones, scary ones, and finally, his own, how he was born from fear, saved by hope, and raised by a human who never asked where he came from, only where he wanted to go. In the morning, Vaelna stood at the edge of the cliff. Her ship was repaired. Kale stood beside her, watching. "The sunrise. Will you come with me?" she asked him. Kale turned to look at Cal in the distance, then back to her. "I'll visit," he said. "But I belong here too." Vaelna nodded once. No anger. No tears. Just love. "You'll always be my son," she said. "And you'll always be my fire," he replied. She boarded the ship and it rose slowly, silent in the morning light. Kale waved until it vanished into the sky. Then he walked back to the ridge, sat beside Cal, and handed him a wrench. "What's this for?" Cal asked. Kale smiled. "If I'm staying, I want to fix things too." Cal grinned. "Then let's get to work, partner." Months later, a statue stood at the edge of the rebuilt canyon. Not of a warrior, not of a queen, but of a small boy, hand raised, flame in his palm, eyes full of stars. And at the bottom, written in every language known to the galaxy, he was hunted, hated, feared, but he chose kindness. And so the galaxy began again. In a quiet workshop beneath the dunes, two figures worked together, a boy once born from war, and a man who had nothing until he chose to protect someone who had no one. They didn't save the galaxy with guns, they changed it with care.